The response that I've had over the last 2 days has been the worst time of my life, but it just speaks volumes about society, and it just stands for everything that I am against, and I don't have words.
This is transgender model Munroe Bergdorf. Earlier this week, a major makeup firm hired her as one of the faces of modern diversity for an advertising campaign.
I just decided to start speaking more about my experience.
But just days later, she's been sacked by the firm for a now deleted Facebook post in the wake of white supremacist rallies in Charlottesville, suggesting that all white people are racist. She said, "Honestly, I don't have energy to talk about the racial violence of white people anymore. Yes, all white people." She continued, "Your entire existence is drenched in racism. Once white people begin to admit that their race is the most violent and oppressive force of nature on earth, then we can talk." L'Oréal said in a statement, L'Oréal supports diversity and tolerance towards all people irrespective of their race, background, gender and religion. We believe the recent comments by Munroe Bergdorf are at odds with those values, and as such we have taken the decision to end the partnership with her.
So, first of all, Munroe, you say there's a context to the comments that you made. Can you just explain what that context is?
Well, I wrote this status in response to the Charlottesville attacks. I was angry, and I think everybody was angry at that point, but I wrote it because I wanted to talk about where the root of racism is, and that much of the West benefited from. So it was important for me to put it into context of why this might be happening. I mean, everybody was angry. We were seeing white supremacists marching around with tiki torches, and it was absolutely insane. So really, in my head, I didn't think that there would be that much of a problem in identifying that racism is coming from white culture, it's coming from white privilege, it's coming from white supremacists. This isn't a situation where people are on a level playing field. Society is not level. Society is built on the foundations of white supremacy.
But the problem is, if you say you're talking about Charlottesville and you were angry, a woman died at Charlottesville protesting
That's
white
why
supremacy,
I was angry.
and she was a white woman.
Absolutely.
So, but when you say all white people, that alienates her as well, doesn't it?
When I say, not really, because when I was saying all white people, I'm talking about the structural racism, I'm talking about systemic racism, I'm talking about how we are conditioned to believe certain things in society. Nobody is born racist. We're all born exactly the same, but it's how society conditions us to think. You can, of course, be an ally, and I've got many allies of all races, but it's how you think. And if you're saying that you're not racist, then what are you doing to dismantle racism? Because you can benefit from racism.
So you don't accept that it's simplistic to say all white people?
No. I think the problem is that a lot of people think that racism is actively calling someone something. But you can think it, and you can see yourself as superior. And really, I think that racism is being aware that you are part of a structure and not doing anything about it.
You come from a mixed-race family yourself.
Yeah.
Do you find it odd that you're now being accused of anti-white prejudice?
I find it ridiculous. I mean, having to explain what was put in the Daily Mail, which was completely out of context. They made it seem like I was just ranting about white people for absolutely no reason when I was literally talking about white supremacy. To have to explain that to my mum is heartbreaking because I'm half white and my mum's white, and I would never, and the whole side of my mum's family is white, so why would I ever say that all white people are racist and I hate white people? It's ridiculous. I want everyone to get on with everybody, and I just don't understand how calling out the roots of racism somehow makes you a racist. That just doesn't make sense to me.
Mm. And L'Oréal have sacked you?
Yes.
How do you feel?
I mean, if that's how they deal with diversity, if that's how they deal with actually calling out racism, then I'm glad. I would like a public apology, because if they're truly for diversity, if they're anti-racism, then they can just look at everything that they brought to my doorstep, everything that I can ever think in the deepest parts of my mind.
This is online abuse in reaction to the story?
Yeah, completely, and I've heard nothing. I've heard absolutely nothing. No one's got in contact, nothing.
I mean, you were hired as part of a campaign to reflect diversity. L'Oréal says that you don't reflect their values anymore.
Well, I would like to know what L'Oreal's values are. If they're going to hire Cheryl Cole, who punched a black woman in the face, I don't understand where their values lie. I called out racial hatred. I called out systemic racism. I didn't call anyone anything. I said that all white people are socialized to be racist because we live in a racist society. That doesn't mean that all white people are racist inherently. It's just like saying that women are socially conditioned to be submissive, men are socially conditioned to be sexist, because this is the society that we live in. We don't live in a utopia where everything's all fine and dandy. This is life, this is difficult, and white supremacy is a reason why we have racism in this country. I was exposed to a lot of racism from being a small kid to being a young adult. I was extremely aware of being different and looked down upon to a certain extent. My dad was called the N-word, I was called the N-word, and I heard it as a kid. We're all conditioned to be different. Our genes and our makeup, our DNA is human, but we are all different, and it's about learning to live with each other, but also identifying where things come from. We can't just say racist and, you know, that's an insult. It's not an insult. Racism is a form of behaviour.
So going from just a few days ago, you were being lauded as L'Oreal's first transgender model and celebrated, to the situation you now find yourself in.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
I mean, I've had better weeks. I don't really know what to say other than I am especially disappointed in L'Oreal. The Daily Mail, I expect that from them, but it was extremely low. I've also found out that the person that gave that false information, that out of context text to the Daily Mail, was someone that I went to university with that didn't like me, and they actively posted on their Facebook that they wanted to take me down a peg or two. And I think that that speaks volumes as well, because when you see a black trans woman doing well, that's what you want to do. That's horrendous. And I think it just speaks volumes. The response that I've had over the last 2 days has been the worst time of my life, but it just speaks volumes about society, and it just stands for everything that I am against. And I don't have words.
It's okay. Munroe Bergdorf, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.